Yeah. All right, like Schwab might be asking me to do a review for like unit 1. All right. Here are 3 terms that I know I'm not going to cover that are in the chapter: retained earnings, GNP, and depreciation. They could show up on the quiz. They might not. I'll put a practice quiz up. I would just make sure. I'm sure if I put this in my notes from last year that kids wrote, like, oh, the quiz, that GNP, you can go over it. They're not hard terms. It's like, I don't know. I can't explain why I won't go over it. We do have a limited amount of time. Okay, everyone get that? Here's kind of what I want to say. So here it'll be Fridays. Like tonight, you should start the new chapter. By the way, we have 58 days to the macro exam. Not that I'm counting down like this, because I had nothing to do. All right, so your notes are due on the economic measures chapter. We'll have a quiz just on that. I think I changed that. And then we'll see when we get this quiz in. Okay, yes.
When is it? Like
May 5th.
May 5th? Which we have 2 exams.
All right, quick multiple choice. Boards out.
Let's go. Yeah, though, I got run.
You not have a board?
I have a board. I didn't have a marker and eraser.
Does Miles have one?
Hey.
And Miles says, all right, let's go. 1 minute. Let's get the answer. Here, I'll give you a minute. Lorenzo, Will's a really nice guy, a good friend. He says I should call on you for every one.
I did say that.
Yeah, I'll give you a minute. I got an answer. Just put it on the board, on your board. Put something on board. Time to bubble in. If you're not sure, just put something up there. Okay. All right. Put them both up. See how you do. All right. Here we go. 1, 2, 3 boards. I got like A's, B's, C's.
Come on.
C's, T's. We've got them all. Does anyone have an E? All right. Let's consumption. Is that part of it? All right. So we got 3,000. Government purchases. We got 4,000. Investment. We got 700. That's 47. 4,700. Exports. Well, exports would be part, right? 300. All right. Minus imports. Minus 500. So that's going to be 4,500. Got it. Not one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Come on.
And also, well, if taxes was something, it wouldn't be part.
So what's not part of
Because okay. And here's what depreciation is. So say you buy a car. Right. So all that's counted is the value when you buy it. Okay? So that's the thing that gets tricky, I think, is you got to remember the minus. Right? That ends up to be minus 200. All right. Let's see. Do we have another one? All right. Which of the following will lead to an increase in the United States gross domestic product? Give you a minute. You're gonna have to look at this here. Okay. All right. You got something on your board? All right. I'm seeing some T's. I got some dogwoods. Looks like dogwood is very popular in these parts. All right. Cameron.
Yeah.
Did you have dogwood?
I did.
Could you explain why?
I just went through all of them, and that was the one that I knew that the other ones weren't. Yeah. That's how I decided.
Charles, could you explain why dogwood is the right answer?
They're made in the United States.
Yeah, and that so foreign companies build new plants. What would that go under? What part? It's capital, which is what part of GDP? The investments, right? It's business investments in the United States. So dogwood, a very popular answer, is correct. All right. Which of the following household purchases would be counted as part of gross private investment in a country's GDP? Give you a minute on that. Okay. Okay. Everyone have something? Boards, please. I've got A's, I've got C's, I've got D's, I've got B's. Is that an E back there? I got everything. All right. First, Andrew, is government bonds part of GDP? Forget even private investment. Is it part of GDP? Yes. Why? So what does GDP measure? Let me ask you. Do you remember? No. Okay, so I'm going to help you. It measures. Were you going to give an answer on that? Yes. So it measures production and services, products and services. Is a government bond a product? Is it a service? So A and B are not in, or C. Okay. A new car for personal use. Where's that going? Someone tell me where D's going.
Consumer spending.
Consumer spending. Newly constructed home is investment. So investment is three things. It's business investment. It's inventories, that business put things in inventories. And the third thing is new homes. And the reason they sometimes put new homes in there is because they have this theory that you can rent your house out. These three always are going to be like distractors to investment, because like I said yesterday, if you went home and said to your parents, can we talk about investments in economics, they're going to say these three, because unless they're economics, because that's just a commonly tossed term, all right? But in macro, investment is business investment, inventories, and new homes.
Aren't those still part of GDP just in the business?
No.
Category?
No, because GDP is counting, Tony, and this is important. GDP is counting how many products were made and how many services were given. Okay. Okay. All right. An increase. Oh man, we threw you a curveball here, Schwab. An increase in the supply of good X resulted in an increase in the price and quantity of good Y. It can be concluded that good Y is
Oh my goodness gracious.
all right. Let's see what we got on our board here. We got a lot of Ellens. That's true. All right. Noah, could you talk me through how you got it to be E as an Ellen? We'll start with an increase in the supply of good X. What's that going to do to the price? Okay. How did you get this? What? I mean, it's definitely going to be a demand shift right to get price and quantity up, right? So it could be, it really could be, it actually could be all of them in the right circle, except this one, in the right circumstance. So if someone, go.
Well, an increase in the supply of X will decrease the price, and since the demand of the other good shifts into the price, that means an increase. And if one good increases in price, and then the other one increases demand, that makes that price.
Okay. So, all right, guys. The first thing would be, I think if you draw the supply curve, you get like the increase in supply gets you a lower price, and then, like Justin said, if the price is lower, so if the price of hot dogs is lower, people are going to buy more hot dogs. Therefore, the demand for hot dog buns a complement, and then you're going to get like that when there's price up quantity there. Okay, so could I really encourage us to do these independently? I think it'll make you better in the learning process. It's not like maybe someone else judge you. I don't judge you on like what's on your board. So, all right, good. Like start going to the. I'm just going to review this from yesterday, and then we'll start on the packet for today.
Thank you, Daniel.
All right. So part of investment is inventory. And I think I gave this yesterday, but it is something that confuses guys. So Ford in 2020, they built a car that's not being sold. They put it in inventory. The car is put down $20,000 in investment. So investment goes up $20,000. And I would just put like investment. So you have the car, $20,000. And GDP then increases $20,000 that year. Now the car is sold in 20,021. So in 20,021, you have a consumption now for that car of 20,000. But now you take the car out of inventory, so you minus the inventory is minus 20,000. The GDP in 2021 is not affected. All right, so it's only affected in the year the car was made. Any questions on that? Guaranteed. That's like a quiz question and a unit test question because inventory. Now, you buy a bottle of wine, right? $100. If it's made in Italy, is it part of our GDP? No. Here's why. Now, Will, he buys this $100 bottle.
Isn't it like kind of a part of our GDP because if we're subtracting exports and imports?
Yeah. What I mean by it has no impact on the GDP.
Okay.
Okay. So, and this is gonna. So Will buys a $100 bottle of wine at the store. Consumption is $100. However, imports are minus 100, so no impact on the GDP. Okay,
Wow.
Just trying to show you how it works out in the real world. Any questions on either inventory or net exports? Okay, those are good. All right, so 2 days ago, I think I ended with, like, is there anything wrong with nominal, with GDP as we learned it, which is nominal GDP. And now we're gonna look like, all right, this is the list of the biggest box office receipts. I don't know when this was, it's 2018. So what is wrong, do you think, with this list? No? Okay, so if it doesn't account for inflation, which movies do you think, like, which movies get hurt the most?
Like Titanic would be closer to Avatar. Star Wars.
Because of 90. Yeah. Now, if you look, is there any movies in the 50s? Again, to your point, right? Because of inflation, right? So if I put like inflation in, look how the list changes.
Avatar's still out there.
Yeah. But like you get some older movies because I don't even know what a movie costs now, but I think I'm thinking I can remember you can go to the movies, popcorn, soda, and a movie for $2. But that's all right. So anyhow,
That's too much. I'm not paying that.
all right, guys. When you're talking about GDP, if you're comparing year to year or years, you need to also think about inflation. Okay, and so the problem with GDP, and here would be, if a country increased from 4 billion to 5 billion in 1 year, is the country experience economic growth? Someone? Justin?
Depends on how much the value of the dollar.
Right. So they might, or they might not, right? It could be 25% inflation, which therefore there would be no economic growth. There could be 5% inflation, there would be. So one of the things that you have to come up with is how to figure out, are we producing more? So if apples are the only thing being produced, 10 apples, $1 each, GDP is $10. The GDP really changed in year 2. It went to 1250, but we're not producing any more apples. Okay, so what we've been looking at, we call nominal GDP. Nominal GDP does not adjust for inflation. Okay, nominal GDP is just apples times price.
So would like Venezuela just have like a really high GDP because like they're
a very high nominal when there's inflation. Yeah. Okay. All right. So nominal GDP measures in current prices. So you would take like the 10 apples or 100 cars times the car's price now. That's nominal GDP. All right. Real GDP is expressed in constant or unchanging dollars. So for real GDP, I would take today's cars times the base year's price. So I'm going back, I'm not using today's prices. So if real GDP changes, production has to increase. All right? If real GDP goes down, production has to decrease. All right, so real GDP is the best measure of economic growth. It is telling you, are you producing more products and more services? As Justin said earlier, nominal, it could be, you could have more production services, but not necessarily. Okay, so here is kind of the example, and I don't know that I put this in the notes. So nominal, 10 cars times 15 to get 150. The nominal GDP there is 350. All right. Now, the nominal for 2009, 10 cars is 160. Notice, we didn't make anything more, but the nominal GDP went up. The real GDP, we're going to take the 10 cars times it by the 2018 prices. So you got 10 times 15 is 150, 10 times 20. So the real GDP did not change, right? 350, 350. And that shows that production doesn't change. So when you're doing real GDP, and they'll usually tell you like the base year, you take the quantity of the current year times the price of the base year. Okay? So now we're comparing the same prices, and 350 to 350, GDP will go up. Any questions on that? Okay. All right. So you have this thing that measures inflation, which is called the GDP deflator, and its formula is nominal over real times 100. All right, nominal over real times 100. Now, the base year is always 100. So if they say nominal the GDP deflator is 100, you know that's the base year. Okay, and this is kind of why in that thing. 10 cars times 15 is 150. 10 cars times 20 is 200. The nominal GDP is 350. And then if it's only just 1 year, real cars 150 and trucks 200. So you're going to get 350 over 350 equals 1 times 100. So the base year will always be 100. All right. The big thing here is to just remember, this is going to tell you, like the GDP deflator is going to tell you the rate of inflation. Okay. On the back of your packet, there's like 8 questions. Is that true? You do, let's do the first 4. Looks like 10 on time.
inflation and unemployment are inverse, right? Inflation's up, unemployment down.
All right. Aiden, what do you have for number one? Let's get 600. That's 100, right? That's 30. That's 130.
I got C.
Go. How'd you get it?
Consumer spending
400
plus government purchases
500.
plus exports and then minus imports.
So exports and imports zeroed out. So that's 500. All right. Who's got number two? Tony.
I got B, increase in nominal GDP.
Okay. So if imports increase, it's a negative number. It's going to subtract. GDP is going to decrease. Will, what do you got for number three?
I got E for the
No, it is.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
So investment could be physical capital, meaning machines, and plants like factories. And yes, sir.
I have a question about number two.
Yeah.
Since the question says that it's an equilibrium, the sum of money that flows into each box is equal to some of the money that flows out of the box. If imports increases and exports is the only thing that goes to the box, to make them equal, wouldn't exports have to increase since it's an equilibrium? It should the answer have been E.
But I think it's equilibrium before they increase.
Yeah.
I thought it was saying that it would stay.
I see what you're saying. And this would be probably if it was a test question, I would say both answers. I just think.
Like, I understand.
Yeah, right. The main thing is to understand that when imports increase in the real world, GDP decreases, right? But I understand what you're saying.
The weird thing would add that line.
The equilibrium. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Because it doesn't say it's equal.
Yeah. Now
The way they word it.
Yeah, like they put some emphasis on it.
Yeah. I understand. Number four. Anyone? Mr. Owens, did you get the number 4?
I got D for dogwood.
D for dogwood is correct. All right, could we just do one more? Number 7. We flash number 7. 3.
Ellen.
All right. So 1 was C, 2 was B, 3 was E, 4 was D. And now we're just doing number 7 as a nightcap. Cameron, you able, because we're tight on time, were you able to get anything? Did you get the nominal?
I think it's either C or A. But
John, what do you got? Did you get the finish, Cameron?
no.
All right, John.
I got B.
All right, John, how did you get 525?
250 times 110.
So 250 times 110 is 275, and then 250 is 525. All right, guys, hold on for 1 second. John, how did you get the real?
250 times 1 and 2 times 100.
Okay, so when you're doing the real for 214, you got to use 213's price. All right, you can fill out your sheet, little sheet, put it in the box. Have a great day. I will see you Monday. Holy cow, it's like you guys are in school like one day a week.
Right there, right? The school's meant to be.
I'm heading over there.
Yeah, was that? My seat. I'm not feeling it.
I'll live with the next to the
Yeah, I'm sick.